Welcome back to CJ's Keto Kitchen. It's time to rise and shine because today we are having breakfast and we are going to be making ketogenically friendly sausage, gravy, and biscuits. So biscuits and gravy really stick to your ribs food, but it's all going to be ketogenic. So come along with us and let's make some breakfast. Okay, so we are going to start making our almond flour biscuits. And in a bowl, I have 1.5 cups of almond flour, and I just kind of broke it up a little bit because sometimes almond flour can get a little bit clumpy. So to the almond flour, we are going to add 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and that's baking powder, not baking soda. And it can get a little bit clumpy too, so you kind of want to make sure that it's all powdered. And you just want to combine that in there. And now is the time also when we want to add our seasonings, just to give our biscuits just a little bit of flavor. And so I'm going to add some pepper and some salt. And I don't want to add too much salt because we're going to be adding some salted butter in here. I also want a little bit of garlic powder. And I'm also going to add some parsley flakes because it gives it some flavor and it also makes them look really pretty. So then I'm just going to mix that all around and make sure everything is combined. So next, we are going to cut in 3 tablespoons of cold butter. And I popped mine into the freezer here because it's 90 degrees right now, so it's very warm. So I have cut my butter into little cubes. Hopefully you can see that. They're little tiny cubes. And we're just going to put those in, and you can absolutely use a pastry blender or a fork or a spatula or whatever you like to do to cut your butter in, and cutting is just a fancy term for combining it into the flour and the baking powder, but I'm going to use my hands because the warmth of my fingers rings off is going to help our combining process. And so you just kind of want to squeeze it around into the flour and let the heat of your body start combining the butter and the flours. And we're not going to get a complete combine, and that's kind of what we want because the cold butter is going to hit the heat of the oven and combine with the baking powder and give us puffy biscuits, which is what we're wanting for our biscuits and gravy. So we're looking for kind of a sandy, like a wet sand texture. If you've ever been to the beach and played in wet sand, that's kind of the texture that we're looking for our biscuits. And I have preheated my oven to 350 degrees for our biscuits. And this is going to make about 6 regular sized biscuits or 4 really large biscuits, depending on how many people you're serving and how many servings you would like. So I have combined the butter as well as I can into my baking powder. And now we are going to make a well in the bowl. So we kind of want to take and make a little spot in the bowl to add our wet ingredients. So we need a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. I'm sorry, not a 1/2 cup. My apologies. A 1/4 cup of heavy cream and 1 egg. And so what I like to do is just kind of whisk the egg right there in the heavy cream, since they're kind of in a little well by themselves, before we add them. And then we're going to combine that with the dry ingredients, and we don't want to overmix this. So just kind of mix it in until everything is just lightly incorporated, because we don't want to make our mixture too gummy by overmixing. So that's about it. Everything is mixed in now. So now we're going to drop these biscuits onto some parchment paper on a cookie sheet and pop them in the oven while we get our gravy ready. Okay, so I have a piece of parchment paper here on my cookie sheet, and I want to try and get 6 biscuits out of this. So let's see what I can do here.
I made that one too big.
I think I'm gonna make it. And they smell good, nice and garlicky. And they should puff up really pretty for our delicious sausage gravy. So I'm gonna put these into the oven, and I'm going to bake them for about 20 minutes, but definitely keep an eye on them because every oven is different. And we are going to start our gravy. Okay, I have fried up 1 pound of sausage, and I just used the kind in a tube. You can get sausage in a package, but it's best if you use sausage, just ground sausage, not links or patties. This makes it nicely broken up. And I'm going to turn my heat on about medium and let this warm up a little bit. And it's interesting to note that I stood in front of the sausage for a while yesterday when I was at Walmart, and a lot of sausages that come in a tube have a great deal of sugar in them, and they also have MSG, so you really need to look at the ingredients of your sausage just to make sure that it doesn't have too many of those things in there. That's just a quick thought there. So while we're waiting for our sausage to get warm, we are going to be using some xanthan gum to thicken our gravy. And you can just buy xanthan gum. They have it at Walmart. It usually comes in little packets, several little packets in a box. And we're only going to need about a half a teaspoon, so these little packets go pretty far. But xanthan gum is pretty popular in the low carb community for thickening because we're not using flour or anything like that. So we're also going to season our sausage a little bit with a couple of flavors. I want to put in a little bit of poultry seasoning because this has sage in it, and sage really brings out the flavor of sausage. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of that on just to give it some extra flavor. Kind of stir that around. And I'm also going to add a little bit of red pepper flake. Now this is totally optional, depending on how spicy you and your family like things, but it gives it a nice flavor. So our sausage is starting to come back up to temperature. So now we're going to sprinkle our xanthan gum on the top and kind of stir it around so that it gets evenly incorporated into the sausage, because we're going to be adding some chicken stock, and that's going to make a gravy for us. So we want to make sure that our xanthan gum is even, because if you don't get it even, it can end up kind of gummy, and we definitely don't want that. So make sure that you stir around your xanthan gum well into your meat. And then we are going to slowly add our cup of chicken stock, and I have 1 cup here. And we want to do this quite slowly so that the xanthan gum incorporates very well. So I'm just going to start out with a little bit at a time. And just kind of let the xanthan gum get into our mixture. So I've increased the heat a little bit because we're going to bring our mixture to a simmer to let all of our flavors form into a gravy before we add our dairy. And this is thickening up quite nicely. So I'm going to add about 2 cups of heavy cream. This is going to make about 8 servings of gravy. We want to whisk that in very well. And we want to let that continue to simmer. I'm going to add a little bit of garlic. And I'm also going to add black pepper. Country gravy and black pepper just go together in my opinion. And let that incorporate and simmer until it reaches the thickness that we want for our gravy. And it's starting to thicken up nicely. So I've turned our gravy down to the lowest possible setting, just warm, basically just to keep it warm while we wait for our biscuits to be done. So our gravy is ready. So here are our yummy biscuits, fresh out of the oven and ready to be dressed with our sausage gravy. Good morning, CJ.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, in the midst of a serious allergy attack.
Yeah.
But what are you going to be eating today?
Today we have sausage, biscuits, and gravy, and of course it's all keto friendly. Let's see how this tastes. That's good. I wouldn't know that's not.
Just regular biscuits and gravy from a restaurant
Yep.
or
Just
from
like,
Grandma's house.
Yep. Wouldn't know the difference. It's really good. Good flavor.
All right. Thank you for sacrificing yourself for all these taste tests.
Yeah, it's hard. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us again. We hope you enjoyed having breakfast with us. And we hope that this will become a standard family classic for you and your loved ones. And we'd like to have you come back and see us again. Please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. We would like you to come back and be a part of our ketogenic family. We upload new content. Usually it's keto conversations on Wednesdays. And then we have a new recipe that comes out on Sundays. So please come back and see us. And we'll see you next time on CJ's Keto Kitchen.